Hello and good morning students. Welcome to the 7th revision lecture. In this revision lecture we are going to begin chapter number 5, degrees of comparison, that we learned in the regular lectures. So as you see on the board, I have put up a question to start with, and that is, what is degrees of comparison? So let us read it out and try to start the revision of our chapter. Well, what are degrees of comparison? If you try to answer this question, this is something that you will come up with or land up with. When adjectives change their form to show comparison between two or more things, this phenomena is called degrees of comparison. Well, I would like to state this in this manner over here. Well, people could have different wordings to understand this. Well, so when adjectives, we learned about adjectives in the earlier classes, in this class, in the regular lectures. Well, we got so many kinds of adjectives, isn't it? Adjective of quality, adjective of quantity. So similarly, adjective of quality particularly. So when the adjective of quality changes its form to show comparison between at least two or more than two, we say that this phenomena is called degrees of comparison. Therefore, 3 degrees are created, what we namely understand as positive, comparative and superlative. You are well acknowledged with these things. Well, let us go through it in the form of writing so that we can just recall our memory and recall what we learned. To understand positive degree in details, this is what I would like to put up over here. The positive degree of an adjective is the adjective in its simplest form. Yes, it's the basic form. The base form of an adjective is called its positive degree. Any words like good, any word like nice, any word like clever, or any such words which are in its simplest form, in its basic form, we refer to as positive degree. It means the positive degree is in its simplest form and it has no other changes. To speak more about it, it is used to denote the mere existence of some quality. So we are just talking about the existence of that thing. We are not actually making any comparison over there, because we are just talking about the quality vested inside that thing or that adjective. So the mere existence of some quality of what we speak about, it is used when no comparison is made. Well, we make use of this positive degree when you actually don't want to make any comparison. You just want to state that the thing or the person has that quality inside it. If someone is clever, I can say Raju is a clever boy. So the quality of cleverness is vested inside Raju. So I have just depicted, I have just spoken out that Raju is a clever boy. Therefore, the word clever is in a positive degree form. Well, this was all about the positive degree. What about the other two? Let's talk about the comparative. The comparative degree of an adjective denotes, it states, it tells us a higher degree of quality. We just saw about the positive degree, where we just understood that it is its existence. Now, when this existing degree is being spoken about or told about in the higher form, therefore, the comparative degree of an adjective denotes a higher degree of quality than the positive degree. If you are trying to express the idea that something is higher than the positive degree, then it is used, then the positive degree changes into its comparative degree, and it is used when only two things are compared. Well, I highlighted only two things are compared. When you want to make a comparison between only two things, not more than two things, just two things. I can say Raju is cleverer than Raman. So I am trying to say that Raju has got a higher quality of being clever, or has the greater cleverness inside him than Raman. Although Raman is clever, but I am trying to say that Raju is cleverer than Raman. Therefore, I have made a comparison between the cleverness vested within Raju and Raman. Therefore, I used a higher degree of quality than the positive degree. Therefore, such a degree is called a comparative degree when a comparison is made between only two things, just two things or two people. Well, let's move ahead and understand the superlative degree. Superlative degree of an adjective denotes the highest degree of the quality. Well, this is the highest one, the topmost one, and it is used when only more than two things are compared. I am not saying two things, I am saying more than two things. So 3, 4, 5 or any larger number of things when compared, we use the superlative degree. I can say again that Raju is the cleverest of all the students sitting in the classroom. So I don't mean to say only two, or I may be saying among the three, or among three people if I am trying to say, but not two. I can say Raju is the cleverest of the three students I know, or the three people I know. So it should be 3 or higher than that, but more than 2, only more than 2 will use the superlative degree. Well, this was the basic thing that we need to understand about the degrees of comparison. Let us come to something that we can include from our literature section, that is the chapter number 2, man's relationship with animals. We learned in this chapter a couple of things, but there was a part in grammar which I had left over for the revision part, that is activity 8. You can have your texts in your hand and look into it. In activity 8 you have been given write underlined sentences from passage in different ways as suggested below. So you have been given some instruction to follow. You can just go through the instruction and understand. Well, there are 3 sentences that I would like to highlight upon, that is, no one knew this street as well as Pierre Dupin. So we come across this character, remember, and the words used in the text in the literature is Pierre Dupin, that no one knew this street as well as Pierre Dupin. So here what is happening, a comparison is being made over here, that Pierre Dupin was one such person who knew the route of the street, that is the Edward Street that we are regarding in this chapter, better than anybody else. So what is being said over here, that no one knew this street as well as Pierre Dupin. He was the only person. So we can say, or we can write this in another form by changing the words inside, or by using the comparative degree but not changing the meaning. Pierre Dupin knew this street better than anyone else. So what have I done over here? I have used, or I have written the same thing in a different manner without changing its meaning. Let me put this up on the board for your understanding so that we can discuss more about it. Now let us go through an exercise given to us in our literature text, which is related to the understanding of degrees of comparison, that we need to cover in this revision lecture, that is activity 8. So you can have your text with you. Well, write underlined sentences from the passage in a different way as suggested below. Well, you've been given some instruction over that you need to follow. There are 3 sentences that when you read from your text in the literature, you will find out that there are 3 underlined statements given to you. The same 3 statements I have brought out for you on the board over here. No one knew this street as well as did Pierre Dupin. Joseph knew the milk route as well as Pierre did. And we'd find another horse just as good as Joseph. These are the same 3 sentences that are underlined, highlighted in your text. Well, this is all about or related to the degrees of comparison. Let us see what do we have to understand from this, from the instructions given to us. Rule 1. When one thing or person is compared with another thing, we try to find out, or we try to change it in this manner. 3 instructions have been given to you. Interchange the places of the things or persons compared. What you are being instructed to do, to change the things or the persons that are mentioned in a sentence, you have to change its positioning. Second thing is, change the affirmative verb to the negative verb, or vice versa, the negative verb to the affirmative verb, as required when the comparison is done. Third instruction, change from the as form or the so as form, that is the positive degree form, to the than, and along with that comes tha and than, that is the comparative degree. So you've been given 3 instructions to follow in these 3 sentences in activity 8, which is directly related to the degrees of comparison, that is our chapter number 5 that we are revising. So let us see what is the new thing that we need to understand. From our grammar text we already learned the change of comparative into appositive into comparative and superlative. Here we are going to understand that though we change or though we use the comparative and positive or the superlative words, but the meaning does not change. Let us see how are we going to do this. No one knew this street as well as did Pierre Dupin. Now what are we going to do over here? We are going to write the answer to this by using a different degree word over here. The adjective is going to change. For that we need to make or follow the instructions given to us, that is interchange the places or change the affirmative verb into negative and vice versa, and to concentrate upon the words like as well as or so as and so as. No one knew, so knew is the verb over here. No one knew this street as well as did Pierre Dupin. We are going to write the same sentence over here without changing its meaning, but we are going to change the degree into its comparative form, but we are not going to change its meaning. Let us see how we are going to do this, and in the process of doing this we may have to change the positioning or the verb from its positive to negative or negative to positive. Let us see and write the answer. No one knew this street as well as Pierre Dupin. Now the last word Pierre Dupin I am bringing forward over here, that is I am changing its positioning, that is the instruction given to us in the first thing. Change the places of the things or persons compared. So here Pierre Dupin and is being compared over here to say that he is the one who knows the street very well. Let's start with that word. Pierre Dupin knew this street. So we are talking about the Prince Edward Street. Knew this street better. See, I have used the ER word which I had been instructed to do. Pierre Dupin knew this street better than, therefore I have to use the word than whom? Than anybody else. Nobody else knew this better. So Pierre Dupin knew this street better than anyone else. So any second person is being compared over here, but what happened? We have not changed the meaning. Despite of that, we have used the word in the comparative degree, and that is better and followed by the word than, better than. So Pierre Dupin knew this street better than anyone else. The form has now changed. It has been changed from its positive to comparative, but the meaning has not changed. The meaning remained the same. Here we meant to say that there is no other person who knew the address or knew the place, the street so good as Pierre Dupin. So here the meaning is the same. Pierre Dupin knew the street better. We are saying better, but better than what? Better than anybody else. Means there are others, or the second other person we are talking about does not know so good as Pierre Dupin. Well, let's move ahead. The second one. Joseph knew the milk route as well as Pierre did. You can see here we are trying to say that Joseph and Pierre Dupin, both of them knew the milk route very well. These are the two people who just knew the milk route very well. So Joseph knew the milk route as well as Pierre did. Means both are having equal understanding about the route. None of them is having a lesser understanding or a lesser idea about the route. The knowledge is complete with them. But we will be writing this in a different way by comparing these two things but not changing its meaning. Let us write it using a negative word as instructed. We have only the word Pierre Dupin. So let's take the word pair. Did not, utilizing a negative word. Now this is to be concentrated upon. Did not know. See the word knew, which is past, now changed to know. Why I do it? Did not know. I am saying I am using a negative verb over here. Did not know what the milk route. Did not know the milk route. I am not going to use as well as I am going to use a word in the comparative degree, that is better than whom? Pair did not know it. Better than whom? Better than Joseph. So here I am trying to say that both of them had the equal knowledge or equal understanding about the milk route. None of them had higher or a better knowledge. Pierre Dupin did not know the milk route better than Joseph. He knew that much as Joseph knew. But the construction of the sentence has now changed. We have written the positive word over here, the positive degree, as well as into better. But the meaning has not changed. Let's go ahead with the third one. We'll find another horse just as good as Joseph. So in this too, we have a positive degree. We'll be changing it into the other degree, or the comparative degree will make a comparison, but we will not change its meaning, but the necessary changes we will be making into it. Let's write it. We'll find another horse So what is being said over here? We'll find another horse just as good as Joseph. Now we are not going to utilize as good as. We will be writing over here better. So we will have to insert a negative word, not better. Well, then only the meaning or the purpose will be satisfied. We will find another horse. But we are not saying we find a better horse than that. We are saying not better. Not better than who was the original horse? Joseph. Therefore, we will be writing the word Joseph over here. So, finally, the meaning remained the same, but the construction, the way of writing changed into its comparative degree. We will find another horse which is not better than Joseph. It means it is as good as Joseph. So, the meaning remained the same, but the formation changed from its positive to comparative. Let us see some more relative examples like this on the board as we just saw in this activity 8. Let us now solve these sentences given to you on the board. As you see, the instruction given to you, practice exercise, change the degree of comparison without changing its meaning. So our key element is going to be not to change the meaning, yet to change the structure or the formation of the sentence by changing the given degree into the other degree required. Well, as you see the first one, Alka is as beautiful as Rita. So what is the idea being conveyed over here? Here we have used all the sentences given to us in the positive degree, where the comparison is made between only Alka and Rita, only two people or two persons. Well, when two objects or two persons are compared, there are only two degrees that can be formed, that is the positive degree and the comparative degree, of which the positive is already given to you as a part of the question. Alka is as beautiful as. So the words as beautiful as, if I underline this to highlight and understand, it is indicating the positive degree of comparison. Well, now what are we supposed to do? Change the degree of comparison into without changing its meaning. So what can we do? We can change it into its comparative degree, but we can't change it into its superlative degree without changing its meaning. Well, if meaning is changed, then there is another aspect. Alka is as beautiful as Rita. Let's write it into its comparative form without changing the meaning and using the necessary change over here. Now I am comparing Alka with Rita. And what am I trying to say? That Alka is as beautiful as Rita. It means that none of them are more beautiful than the other. Therefore, I should be writing and interchanging the words, bringing Rita over here and then starting, as we just understood in the activity with the instructions were given to you as a rule. Let us begin with the word Rita. Rita is not more beautiful. So I am using a negative aspect, a negative verb over here by inserting the word not. Rita is not, and then I am writing the word more beautiful, because the word beautiful is not a monosyllabic word. Where you have an adjective which is not a monosyllabic. Well, I have explained about monosyllabic in my earlier lectures. So something that cannot be pronounced or spoken in just one breath, it is a multisyllabic word, not a monosyllabic word. For that, to change into its positive to comparative, we need to add the word more, and similarly for superlative, we have to add most. Therefore, I will use the word more over here. Rita is not more beautiful, so I am denying the fact. Not more beautiful, and then writing the comparative word than, which is very important. Rita is not more beautiful than whom? Than Alka. Therefore, by writing this, I am saying the same meaning. I am not changing its meaning. I am not saying that Alka or Rita are having more beauty within them than the other. No, it means the same. Alka is as beautiful as Rita, the positive degree. Rita is not more beautiful than Alka is the comparative degree, where I have written more beautiful than to symbolize the comparative degree over here, but the meaning hasn't changed, the formation has changed. Well, let us see the next one, a similar one given to us, but be a little careful. Rahman sings as sweet as Asha. So only two people are being compared, Rahman and Asha, with regards to the verb singing, sings as sweet as. But be careful with the word sweet. It is not a multisyllabic word, it is a monosyllabic word. So we will not require to add the word more. Instead, we will directly change it into its comparative form of the word of the adjective. Let us see how we will write this. Once again, we are going to bring the word Asha over here to begin the answer. Asha, I am using a negative word, does not sing. So here the word sings now become sing. Be careful about the necessary changes. Asha does not sing sweeter than, whom is it being compared to? Rahman. Therefore, write the word Rahman. So hereby I have changed the construction or the formation of the sentence, but the meaning hasn't changed. The message that was conveyed in the positive degree is still remaining the same. Here it means Rahman and Asha both sing equally sweet. None of them are more sweeter. Therefore, Asha does not sing sweeter than Rahman, does not change the meaning. But we have used a comparative degree. Instead of as sweet as, we have used sweet over here. Therefore, you can find the difference over here, that the positive has now been changed into comparative without changing its meaning. That's the key element to keep in mind. Let us move ahead to the next one. The Ganga is the holiest river in India. Well, merely reading the sentence, you might have identified that the sentence is given to you in the superlative degree. As you can just observe the words the holiest. Well, holiest is the highest degree of comparison, that is the superlative degree, and therefore the article the has been used, which you learned earlier in the chapter about articles. The Ganga is the holiest river in India. So this too can be changed into its comparative degree, and not only comparative degree but also into its positive degree. As I just said earlier, that a sentence in a positive degree can be changed into its comparative only, because the comparison is made between only two objects or two people. But here Ganga is being compared not only to some other river but many other rivers. Therefore, we can change this sentence into two forms, two other degrees. bringing it to its descending order, because this is in the highest degree. This is the superlative degree. We can bring it down to its comparative degree and then bring it or descend it to its positive degree. Let us do it. How can we write this? To write the answer, we will make the necessary changes, like the Ganga is, now because we want to use a comparative degree over here, bring it to the first level down, I will change the word holiest to holier. It is a monosyllabic word, therefore I don't require to add any other word like more over here. So the Ganga is holier than whom am I comparing Ganga? Well, the river Ganga is being compared to any other river in India. So there is no such river in India. The message being conveyed over here, or the idea being suggested over here, is that Ganga is the holiest. When Ganga is compared to any other river in India, no other river is having that holiness inside it compared to Ganga. Therefore, the Ganga is holier than any other, I will be using the term any other river in India. So in this manner, we have successfully changed the superlative degree into its comparative degree by writing holier than and using the term any other. Keep this in mind, any other. This is just for your understanding. I am highlighting the words. The Ganga is holier than any other river in India. So I am comparing Ganga with all the other rivers that are present in India. Well, the same thing can be written into its positive degree without changing its meaning. Here too, the meaning did not change. The meaning remains the same by saying that Ganga is the holiest and no other river is better or holier than Ganga. So it has the holiness inside it. Well, the same thing can be written in the positive form in this manner by writing over here. When I am comparing Ganga to any other river and trying to write its positive degree, I should be writing or beginning with the word no other, because there is no such river that is holier than Ganga. So I should begin with the words no other using a negative word. No other river, no other river where in India is as holy or so holy as which one? The Ganga. So in this manner, the superlative degree is now changed into its comparative by using holier than and by using the word no other river. So keep this in mind. We have to use a negative word. No other river in India is so holy as the Ganga. So in this manner, we've been able to change the given superlative degree into its comparative and positive. So when we have superlative, we can change it into its comparative and positive, as I just said a while ago. But when you have comparison between only two things, we can only change it into its comparative and not into its superlative without changing its meaning. Here too, the meaning does not change. No other river in India means no other river. There is no such river which is holier or holier than Ganga, and it's the holiest. So the idea that was given or the suggestion that was given over here is maintained in both these sentences. Let's move ahead. Akash is the best player in our team. Once again, we have a similar sentence, the best player. So you see the superlative degree, the best. Best is the adjective. So similarly, we will be able to write the same thing. Just as we wrote the Ganga is holier, we will be writing over here Akash is better. But for this, you need to recall the word that's very important. The word best, when it comes into its comparative degree, the entire word changes. Unlike holiest, where we eliminated L-I-E-S-T and we added I-E-R, that is not the form over here. For this, the prior knowledge is very, very important. Akash is Best changes to better. Akash is better. Akash is better than any other. Player in our team. So we have changed the superlative into its comparative without changing its meaning, better than. And again we have used the word any other. So when you are trying to suggest, or when the suggestion given to you or the idea being conveyed in a sentence in the superlative degree is, there is not one like that, the highest one, then we use the words any other. So this was one form of the superlative degree changing into its comparative. Let us now put this into its positive too, because we can change it into its positive. Similarly, we will be using a negative word. No other player, be very careful when you use words. No other player in our team is as good as or so good as. So once again you need to recall the word in the positive degree, best change to better, and now we are using its positive word, that is good, so good as, and then finally write the person that is being compared over here, that is Akash. So you see, we have changed the given superlative degree, Akash is the best player in our team, into its comparative as well as its positive over here. Keep these words in mind. No other required, the negative words, and the word so good as, which is the positive degree required to make its positive degree comparison. Well, let us move ahead and see the next fifth sentence. The Narmada is one of the holiest rivers in India. Well, once again we have the word holiest. But be very attentive and careful in this sentence. Try to compare the sentence with the third and fourth sentence very cautiously. The Narmada is one of the holiest. Do you find something different over here? Well, I do find something different over here. Here the Ganga is the holiest was mentioned and not one of the holiest. Well, there is an addition of a word over here, that is one of the holiest, which completely changes the meaning or the idea being conveyed. The meaning or the idea suggested in the third and fourth is not similar to the number 5 over here. When I say one of the, I do not mean that it is the only one, but it means to say that there is yet some more which are similarly holiest to or holier to Narmada. Therefore, I have to be very careful when I change it into its comparative and positive degrees. Well, we will be writing now the comparative and then the positive degree about the given sentence. The Narmada is one of the holiest rivers in India. To put it into its comparative, I must begin with the word the Narmada itself. The Narmada is holier. Yes, I maintain the same tempo. Is holier, but I will be having a change over here when I used to write over here any other. The Narmada is holier than. So up to this everything was same. The Ganga is holier than, the Narmada is holier than. But here comes the important change. We used to write over here any other river in India. That needs to be changed and written over here most other or many other. That brings out the difference between these two sentences. The Narmada is holier than most other or many other rivers in India. Most other, or alternatively I can write many other rivers in India. This would change the given sentence into its comparative but without changing its meaning. Let's underline the words one of the holiest, and the Narmada is holier than. We will return the words most other, or we may use the word many other. This is the most important part to remember. When the sentence has one of the holiest, we use most other or many other to write its comparative degree and not any other to write its comparative degree, because the meaning or the suggestion is changed. Here it meant that Ganga is the one and only, but here we need to say that Narmada is one of the holiest, meaning that there are some more rivers, there are some other rivers which are equally holier or holiest to Narmada. Therefore, the meaning does not change. Well, let us write the positive of this one. Similarly, as we wrote over there, no other river in India is so holy as the Ganga. We will have to change these two words and bring it to very few. Well, the word we must use over here is very few. Very few rivers in India are as holy as Ganga, as Narmada. Well, so in this manner, we've written the positive degree, but with a different word over here. We haven't written the word no other, because we mean to say that there are some more which are just equally holy as Narmada. So very few is the word to write in the positive degree. Very few rivers in India are as holy as. Have a look at this word too. Well, these were a few sentences that we put our hands on. There are a few more that we need to do. Let us now look into this. Well, let us now look into these second set of sentences, 6 to 10. The first one, perhaps the sixth one. Malika is the most talented student in our class. Well, it is nothing but a superlative degree that you can identify. Let's underline the superlative part over here. That gives us the idea about the superlative degree. The most talented. So you can see the word most being used, as the word talented is a multisyllabic word. Let us now change it into its comparative and into its positive without changing its meaning. That is going to be the key element of our learning. Malika is the most talented student, so I should be starting with the word Malika is more talented, and then apply the word than. More talented than. Whom am I comparing to? I am comparing her to all the students present in the class. So Malika is the most talented student in our class. Class refers to a collective noun. So I should be writing over here Malika is more talented than any other. Well, I just explained about this. Any other student in our class. You can also change it into its positive degree, because it is a superlative degree. Malika is being compared to all the children in the class. Well, to write its positive, we should be using the negative word no other. No other student in the class is as talented or so talented as Malika. That would give you the positive degree. Well, I am not mentioning it on the board right now. We already wrote it in the previous sentences. Just remember about it. Malika is more talented than any other student would be the comparative degree. More talented than, and we have used the word any other. Let me highlight it once again. But if you write the positive of this, you will be using the negative word no other. You will be beginning with the word no other. No other student in our class is as talented or so talented as Malika. Well, let's move ahead to the next one. Sachin is one of the best cricketers. Well, we have got one more superlative, but with a little change, as I explained earlier in the first set of 1 to 5 sentences. The most and one of the best. So we have a change using the phrase one of and then having the superlative degree the best. So be very careful when you write the comparative and its positive. Let us begin and write. We will be writing in a similar manner. Sachin is better than most other or many other, as I explained earlier. Sachin is better than most other or many other. Who are those things? Comparing cricketers in the world. So Sachin has been compared using the comparative degree, but keeping in mind that there are other similar players which are of the level of Sachin. So one of the and better than, using the word most other and many other does not change the meaning of the statement or the sentence. It remains the same. The only thing is that the superlative degree has now changed into the comparative degree. That's the only change we have experienced by using the word better than and keeping in mind the words most other and many other when you change such a given superlative degree. Well, we can change the given sentence into its positive degree too, but be very careful. We are not going to use the word no other this time. We will be using the word very few. Very few cricketers in the world are as good as Sachin. The word best will come down into its positive degree. Just as we use the word better over here, we will be using the word good. So, very few cricketers in the world are as good as Sachin would be the positive degree of the given superlative sentence, but without changing its meaning. Let's move ahead and see the next one. Number 8. Nisha has more friends than Malini. So what is the idea being suggested over here? Well, we are saying that Nisha, a girl, has more friends, larger number of friends than compared to Malini. So you see the sentence carefully. The question itself or the sentence itself given to you is in the comparative degree. So first of all, we should be able to identify the degree more friends. So I am underlining the word more friends so that it gets understood by you. More friends than. So more than. The words more than suggest that the question is already in the comparative form. So what can we do? Can we change it into its superlative without changing its meaning? No, you can't change it into its superlative because when comparison is done between only two, we have only two forms into existence, that is positive and comparative. Positive changes into its comparative and comparative can change into its positive. Well, so when the question is already in the comparative, let us now change it into its positive degree. For that, we need to make necessary changes just as we do when we make positive into comparative. Nisha and Malini will change the places when we write the answer. So we will begin with the word Malini. Malini, but we will be using a negative word. Do not forget about that. Malini does not have. See, has now changing to have because we are using a negative verb over here. The auxiliary verb and the verb is negative. Malini does not have so many friends as Nisha. So you see, we have changed the given comparative into its positive by utilizing the words Malini does not have so many friends. So the word so many and as has been used with the word friends in between it. So Malini does not have, which is a negative, does not, and we change and use the word have. Malini does not have so many friends as Nisha. It changed into its positive but without changing its meaning. We mean the same over here, that Nisha has more and Malini has less number of friends. So Nisha has more friends than Malini. The meaning remained the same. Let's go ahead with the next one. Mangoes are dearer than apples. Well, in this sentence too, you will be able to observe that the word dearer than given to you is in the comparative degree. Let me underline it. Dearer than. So, what can we do? Can we change it into its superlative? Well, you can't change it into its superlative because the comparison is made between only two mangoes and apples. So, when we have a comparison between only two objects, we can change it into its positive or positive into its comparative. So the given sentence is in the comparative degree. We will change it into its positive degree by writing the necessary answer. Let's bring the word apples in the beginning to start the answer. Apples are, and we have to utilize a negative word over here. Apples are not so dear. Dearer will change to dear as the positive form. Are not so dear or not as dear as, not as dear as, not as dear as mangoes. So you observe this carefully. Did you observe this carefully that I have written apples are not so or not as dear as. So I used the positive degree as dear as along with the negative word not over here. We changed the given comparative into its positive without changing its meaning. At all given point of time, I am reminding you not to change its meaning. Let's go ahead with the next one, that is number 10, last one. The government pays more handsome salaries than private firms. Well, one more example we have over here, which is a comparison between two, the government and the private firms, and the sentence given to us is in the comparative degree because the word suggests over here more handsome than. So let us write it into its positive form as required. The private firms and then we will be using a negative word, the private firms, and then we will insert the negative word do not. Well, be careful, I am using the word do not over here and not using does not because here the subject is plural, therefore I need to use a verb which is in agreement with this subject. Unlike in the earlier sentence I used does not, so here I am using do not. The private firms do not pay, and then I must pick up the necessary degree of comparison. The private firms do not pay what? More handsome changes to the required do not pay as handsome as. So I need to apply that as handsome as, and then the comparative word. The private firms do not pay as handsome as whom? As the government. So finally I will mention the government. Well, so with this, we change the given comparative degree form into its positive degree without changing the meaning. The private firms do not pay as handsome as the government. Let us mark it out as handsome as, and do not is the negative word that we have utilized over here. Well, these were the total 10 sentences. I hope this was useful to you to understand the comparison of degrees. With this, I bid you goodbye. See you soon in the next lecture. Till then, have a nice time. Goodbye.